Hi, my name is Padraig Murphy. I'm a lecturer in science communication in the School of Communications at DCU. I'm also director of the Societal Impact Platform. Let me explain a little bit about what I do, the research roles particularly involved in those two areas. Science communication, science technology studies, public engagement with science. There's various ways of describing this whole new area. It's not hugely well known, but it's definitely increasing because we have a real need to get more science and technology information out to the public, first of all, but also there's a need to involve more what we would call publics, various types of people within the public involved in the processes of science and technology. Let's start with science communication and what it means. I suppose for a lot of people it is about getting more technical information, getting more discoveries, the wonderful discoveries that are there, whether it's in astronomy, whether it's in quantum theory, even mathematics, genetics, all areas where people have an increasing interest. And this is great. There's so much wonderful kind of new knowledge being discovered all the time and being investigated. And also the innovations that happen within universities, within research centres, within corporations. And this is all important that we find out about this information. But there is another dimension to this. And the dimension is that we're not hugely engaged by it. In fact, we're asked not to be engaged in some ways. That sounds a funny thing to say, but because we have technology, because we have technological devices where we get our information, what some sociologists call expert systems, things are done for us. We don't have to always know what goes on under the hood, so to speak. Now, that's not true for everybody, but things are becoming more user-friendly and making our lives easier in a lot of ways, but also in that way we don't have to investigate, we don't have to engage so much with the science and the technology that's there available. An example, of course, is that we use our smartphone or we use another handheld device all the time to find information. So, for example, you may be very interested in astronomy, so you get all your updates on your device and you look through them and you see the new discoveries that are there. You may get a call at some stage from your doctor. It's great if you get your doctor to call you, but if you're lucky enough to have that, you may set up an appointment for some checkup that you've been meaning to have. So you go out the door, you go and do your doctor's appointment. You don't have to think so much about how you actually got that information. You don't have to think so much about the information that the doctor gives you. You're not going to die, you hope. You won't be that sick, you hope. But you're not actually going to find out too much detail about the drugs that are prescribed. You just want to be better if there's something wrong. So you check maybe the weather report as well. You use these devices to find out about the weather. You realize there's a storm coming. But imagine this scenario then, that actually you realize that you've picked up some malware on your device. It's going to spread across all the other devices that you have, and you're out of action as regards computers and handheld devices and communication devices. You also realize that the doctor wants to call you in for something else because there's a global pandemic and you need to be made sure that you're vaccinated against that to the best of the powers of science and technology can provide for vaccination at this particular point. You also find out that the weather is due to huge new weather systems that are there, possibly related to climate change, and of course that is a real threat. And then you check your astronomy website and you realize, just to cap it all, there's a meteor going to hit Earth. Okay, that's apocalyptic, but some of these are real scenarios, or could possibly be. Certainly in the case of climate change, that is something that is happening, and we need to address this. The idea is, the point of all this is that if any of these cataclysmic events were to happen, you need a whole political response. You need a cultural response in some cases, if you have time, of course. And in actual fact, there are some serious societal challenges out there, and actually that is a terminology that's used in research and research funding. The Horizon 2020 stream of funding for European research addresses societal challenges. They may not be as apocalyptic as a meteor coming to hit the Earth, but certainly there are things like the provision of water supplies globally, the manufacture and the safe management of food systems, transport, sustainability issues, information and communication technologies, and also, of course, the whole area of climate change itself and how we adapt, if you like, to that, to make us resilient societies. This means, of course, that science and technology isn't anymore just about that wow factor. It is about that as well. It's good to know and understand the content of science and technology, but they're very political. It means we need to engage more types of people in this. The people like myself who love science and love finding out about new things, new discoveries, that's all very well, and we will engage in our devices. But we need other types of people involved in this, and this is what science communication is about. And the area of science and technology studies that further and tracks and sees where the power systems are there. How come people don't get this information, the global inequalities that are there, but also how people respond in a negative way to certain technologies. I'm thinking of stem cell research, GM potatoes in Ireland. This has been a kind of a live issue, but GM food in general. Nanotechnologies sometimes create flashpoints where people have a certain anticipation and certain fear of particular technologies, and they can be culturally grounded, but they can be responses that are legitimate, certain negative responses that are legitimate. People would have a fear for their local communities in the case of wind farms, for example. So that means that science is quite political, and a lot of what we do in DCU, in our research groups, is looking and seeing, can we engage the political in science and the science in the political. So how are we responding to this? Well, in DCU, the research and innovation strategy has been realigned to address these societal challenges that I mentioned. So, for example, ICT, sustainability, secure and democratic societies, and healthcare. These are 4 very huge themes, of which, of course, there are many other sub-themes there. But Dublin City University is, if you like, aligning its research response to that and its funding mechanisms. The societal impact platform is actually a cross-cutting area within this system, because we realize that there's actually a lot of different types of researchers needed in there. It's not just about ICT experts being involved in ICT issues. It's not just about health experts or health technologists involved in cancer research. You need ethicists, you need philosophers, you need social scientists, you need politicians or political scientists. You may need politicians sometimes too, and that's an important part. You also need to have people involved on administration level. So the Societal Impact Platform, first of all, attempts to get people on the inside of DCU involved in interdisciplinary teams to be involved in these societal responses, but also the outside. If you like, the outside world being the people outside DCU, everybody else. What exactly are the societal challenges? Could we be seeing new ones? Are we missing some? How are these different types of audience, different types of public going to respond to the technology we have on the inside? So we watch that as well, and we're forming a team at the moment to make sure that the internal responses match what's happening on the outside. One of the areas in the Societal Impact Platform, or one of the key projects, is community knowledge exchange. Here's where we actually look for research ideas out there in the public, the local community particularly, and we see, can we match it with the expertise that we have on the inside in DCU. So there could be research programs in existence that may help very specific problems or very specific issues that a local community have. But there also may very well be students on undergraduate or even postgraduate level who can undertake this type of research. So we try to match that up. The other area, the real research area that I'm involved with, is with Celsius. This is Cultural, Ethical, Legal and Social Implications of Science. It's a multidisciplinary group, but housed very much in the School of Communications. We have 4 PhDs and a couple of research assistants, as well as academic staff who are working on this area. We look at a range of issues. We've investigated how the GM potato is understood, if you like, in Ireland, and how this new trialling that's going on at the moment to see, can we actually introduce genetic modified foods into Ireland? How can that work? We actually set up a citizens' jury in the Carlow area to investigate people's views on this. We've looked at radon and radiation and people's perspectives on that. We've evaluated particular science and education and outreach programs. We've also looked at genetic technologies and genetic screening technologies particularly, and looked at the public response there and seeing how it can be introduced, for example, in the education system. That was the subject of my recent book, Biotechnology, Education and Life Politics. So the Celsius group is involved in researching these very live issues and actually the public response And this is the key part here, the idea of science and society interacting, a dialogue, if you like. And science and society, as it turns out, is made of the same stuff. A scholar in this area in the mid-20th century, Georges Canguilhem, he investigated this area of science and technology, how it has a social context, how we, all of us, start thinking in new ways once science and technology introduces new topics and new concepts. For example, even the discovery of DNA in the mid-20th century. Of course, it was the beginning of the machine age. We were beginning to think about life processes and science itself and our own individual lives in terms of information. So it became something that we were able to conceive, that these bits of genetic material or bits of information, rather like a computer. And as we use these devices that I mentioned earlier on, it's natural that we start thinking in terms of us being like those devices and they being us. We are all part of this one collection. Another interesting area, of course, is data mining, and this is an area where actual machines themselves are starting to, I suppose, sort out, sift through the huge amount of technical information that's out there and formulate it for and digest it for journalists and for people who are science communicators. So our Masters in Science Communication is also connected to these areas, the Societal Impact Platform and our Celsius research group. This is where we bring in a cohort of people every year to become science communicators. Some of them are scientists, some of them are not. Many of them go on to work in science policy, maybe journalism. They get involved in media projects. They do all kinds of things that are interesting. And all these new spaces that are opening up, if you like, between what is science and society. And back to Georges Canguilhem, he would have talked about the idea of media. I mean, it's interesting to see that biologists use media in their petri dishes when they're growing cultures, if you like. And it's a place where there is a lot of interaction. It's where, it'd be like the public find their nutrients, but also where scientists themselves need to have nutrients. And this is the key part of all this. This is why it's so important, and I really love the kind of research that I'm doing, because it's not just about getting scientists to promote themselves, to communicate better, to get out there and show the great discoveries that they have, of which there are brilliant examples here in Ireland as well as everywhere else. That's important, but it's not the only part. It's actually trying to set up a real dialogue, that you have society and science, which are made of the same stuff really. One cannot exist without the other. To make sure there's a dialogue there, to make sure that we have people interacting, engaging in a very meaningful way with science and technology. And that's what myself and my team are all about, and we love that kind of work.